So since I started sharing a few of these videos with people, I've gotten a couple of questions and requests. And one of those requests was to share a little bit about my background and, how did I get to be here doing this? I guess I think that for me in my spiritual life, the major the major event that got me started was when I first became active with Peruvian shamanism. And that came about because I was reading all of these books about Andean and Amazonian shamanism. And I was reading book after book after book, because I was interested. And I was reading these books. And then it came to be that one of the authors of the books was coming to town and doing a workshop. And I had to be there. I just absolutely had to be in this place. So I showed up this workshop where I knew just next to nothing about what was going to happen. And the workshop was filled with students who'd already been studying with this shaman. And they had brought along their collections of stones that made up their mesas, their altars, their personal altars. And I brought along stones for Lord knows what reason, but I was there, I had stones too, And, all of this was a huge opening for me. That workshop was I think the first time in my life when I knew for sure I had felt something that was non-physical and undeniable. And it happened because we were doing healing work. And there was a woman in the workshop who was working with me who was an experienced healer. And when she moved her hands over me to do the work, I could feel it. I could feel it so vividly. And I went home after that workshop and I thought to myself, if I die now, if I died right here in this moment, I would feel fulfilled because I knew there was something beyond the physical because I had felt it, And so I continued working through workshops with that shaman and other shamans who were coming in and visiting in the Chicago area. I was very, very lucky to have a multitude of teachers who liked coming into Chicago. And that was the center of my life for a long time. And in the work that they taught me, healing was a primary function of doing this kind of shamanic work. So I think from them, I learned something about doing ceremony. I learned various techniques of healing. And maybe most importantly, I learned honoring of the earth. And I learned to step into their traditions of honoring the earth. And that became part of me. And so I have a lot of gratitude to all of those people who taught me during those years. And still I had a longing for something more. And that something more came to me when I walked into a bookshop once. And I thought, oh yeah, where's my next book? Where's my next book? And I thought I would just follow my intuition. So I followed my intuition, I was walking around saying, where's the energy? Where's the energy? Yeah, here, okay, stay in here. And, it was books on energetic healing. And right in front of me was a best-selling book, and I thought, no, that can't be it. I just don't know, that's not the one. I went down the bookshelf, oh, there's this other book, pulled it out. And it was a book by someone named Amorah Quan Yin. and it was her first Pleiadian workbook, Awakening Your Divine Ka. So I bought that book, and I went home and I worked through these exercises, from one end of the book to the other. And that, for me, was such a huge expansion of everything I had learned. And I think it worked for me in some part because I had the foundation of the Peruvian shamanism. I had already worked with energy. I had already worked on developing my vision. So when I came to Amorah's book, I was more than ready to digest everything that was in there. So even while I was still working with the Peruvians, I had made the decision that I would go visit Amorah Quan Yin and study with her. She was only in Mount Shasta. I was living in Chicago. Doesn't sound too difficult. And but how I got there, that's a funny story, because I had also at that time had arranged for me by one of my teachers a trip to Peru, my first trip to Peru. And I had spent 10 days studying with Don Victor Estrada. And Don Victor had taken me, through lifetimes of journeys I had had in Peru. And then he had asked me at the end of the time I was there if I would stay so that I could work with another client who was coming in to visit, a woman from Sweden. And I said, well, of course, another day with Don Victor, of course I'll do this. And, this mysterious woman from Sweden, well, that turned out to be Ulla, my future wife. And that was our first encounter. That one day that she was working with Don Victor and I was working with Don Victor, and he did the work with us together. That was my first meeting. We stayed in touch, and the next summer we both went and did 10 days of work together with Don Victor. And after those 2 summers, that was when I decided to go study with Amorah Quan Yin. So I had gone on to Amorah's website to find out how to arrange things, and found out that Amorah wasn't available when I could be there. But Amorah had written to me and suggested that I contact someone who was on her website. But she didn't tell me who. So I went to the website, and I'm going down through all these names saying, where's the name? Where's the name? And they're all names like do, re, mi, fa, so. They're not people's normal names. They're all spiritual names. And say, who am I picking? So I go down, and there's a name that sticks out and attracts me. And the name is Mira-El. And I don't know whether this is a woman or a man. I have no idea where Mira-El is. But I contact Mira-El, and she's in Mount Shasta. And after some conversation through email, she agrees to take me on as a student. But she says, well, of course, we need another person. We need someone else. You have to do healing trades. And I said, I know this woman from Sweden who was also interested. Maybe she'll come. And Mira-El says, oh, the Swedish woman. Oh, yes. Well, she's already written to me. Oh, yeah? I had no idea. So contacted Ulla, and it turned out we both had independently decided that we wanted to go to Mount Shasta. We both ended up studying with Mira-El. And that was my first introduction to the full sensory perception course, created by Amorah Quan Yin. And while I was there in Mount Shasta, Ulla and I were able to meet with and talk with Amorah Quan Yin. So that was a second beginning, so to speak. because I was exposed to this vast array of healing techniques and approaches to healing that Amorah had brought in. And then for me, I suppose I could say that was filling a void for me, because in addition to everything I had learned from the Peruvians, then I had these teachings that Amorah had brought in from Lemuria and Atlantis and Egypt, a modern manifestation of the mystery school. And I learned so much about healing that I guess I sort of found myself in the potential role of being a healer. I mean, that really clicked for me. So for some years, Ula and I made arrangements to go to Mount Shasta and study with Amorah Quan Yin. And my technical knowledge of healing and the depth of my perception increased so much, with Amorah's influence. And that had so much to do, with who I am and how I devote my life now. I guess the short story is that since then, since Ula and I, completed our work with Amorah, we've been traveling around the world with groups of people, largely trained by Ula in the techniques of the Dolphin Star Temple that Amorah established, and doing work with the earth. So for me, these two aspects of my life, the earth-related work that began for me with the Peruvians, and the healing work that became so enriched through Amorah Quan Yin, those have merged together, into one kind of work that's about healing humanity and healing the earth, and making efforts to combine these and blend these together. And that's a lot of what happens for me when Ula and I do trips to places around the earth to do earth work. And when I do work with clients, as I meet clients here in Stockholm all the time, to me it's about their lives, but it's also about the evolution of humanity in relationship to the earth. Yeah, I guess that's my story. In a small capsule, and maybe that helps to give you some sense of who I am and why I'm doing the things that I'm doing.